Hello and welcome to Ham Nation, episode 506 for October 27th, 2021. Welcome to Ham Nation, everybody. I guess you can call this the Halloween episode. Thanks so much for coming on out and saying hi. Got a lot of fun for you all planned. Get ready. Make sure you're posting the questions in the chat and just at Ham Radio Crash Course, so I'll see them as we go along. So without further ado, let's welcome our hosts. Hello, hosts.
Good evening.
Howdy. Let's start with Joe. Joe, how are you? What's going on?
I'm doing fine. I'm going to show a couple of pictures from Pacificon and pictures of a kit that I'm just starting to work on. And maybe we'll let you see my haunted radios.
Ah, very good.
Nice.
And Doctor, give me the news.
Oh, I got something for you, Joshy. You just clear your condition. Yeah, let's find out just exactly what condition your condition is in here for.
Well, maybe hang on to that for a little while. So what's going on, Dodd?
Nothing. Work and play, and that's about it. I'm excited. I always love the Halloween editions of Ham Nation because you never know what Amanda's going to come up with, and she's got a good one tonight. So you're looking lovely, darling, I must say.
Lovely. Ravishing.
Thank you. The most evil woman in the world.
Yeah, we've got Dr. T coming up, her solar report, as well as Amateur Radio Newsline, and a couple of guests on tonight. It's going to be a good show.
Very good. And Amanda, how are you? Looking great?
I feel like going and ruining somebody's day. No, not yours, though, or anybody else here. Thanks for joining us, everybody. We have some fantastic guests tonight. We're going to learn all about amateur radio digital communications and what they're offering the whole ham radio world, all the way around the world at that. So if you're ready, we're just going to jump into an interview here.
Let's do it. Let's go right into it.
All right. So good evening. We have John Hayes, K7VE, and Don Romanchik, sorry, KB6NU. Thanks, gentlemen, for joining us this evening. And I'd like to talk all things about what your awesome organization is doing. Now, if anyone has been reading ARRL news lately, you've been reading about some grants coming down the pipes. And you're like, who are these people? What do they do? So they're here to tell us tonight. John, how did ARDC get started? And what did you guys do?
Okay, so we come from a background of packet radio back in the 80s. And at that time, everything was being done basically on VHF and HF at fairly low baud rates. But there was some foresight with Hank Magnuski, KA6M, I believe is his call sign. He's still around. And he went to John Postel and said, hey, there's this thing called the internet that you're responsible for handing out IP addresses for. Could we have some for ham radio? And John assigned what is now known as Net 44 because all the addresses start with 44 dot. It's also called AmperNet, and we received 16 million IPv4 addresses. And over the decades, trustees changed a little bit here and there and came down to a gentleman named Brian Cantor, who was at the University of California, San Diego. And Brian saw the wisdom that the trustees should be a nonprofit corporation. So Amateur Radio Digital Communications was created. And then back in 2019, we looked over what we had in that address space, like I said, 16 million addresses, and we weren't using all of them. And we had an opportunity to sell off, as many of the addresses as we wanted, and the decision was made to sell off the top quarter of them, so 4 million addresses. With the price of addresses, IPv4 addresses are disappearing. quickly. That generated a rather large endowment that is now entrusted to Amateur Radio Digital Communications. And we have a large, well, medium-large set of volunteers that help with that. And then we have a small staff. And Dan and I both joined staff over the summer. I've been involved with Packet Radio since the beginning, even before AX25, for those of you that remember that. And over the years have been involved with Packet Radio in general and Ampernet as well. So upon joining, well, before I became staff, I had volunteered for our grants committee, which you'll get to see some of the things we've been doing with that. I was asked to chair that committee last year, and I continue to do that role in addition to being the outreach manager. So I reach out to organizations, both in amateur radio and in digital communications. We do grants for scholarships, for amateur radio projects, for research, and a whole variety of things. If you look on our page of grants, they have ranged from $2,000 to a little over $1.5 million. And because of the size of our grant, we're obligated under IRS rules to give away a certain amount of that each year, and that amounts to several $1 million. So it keeps me pretty busy reaching out to find people to do that. So we're hoping through some outreach through organizations and programs like Ham Nation that more people will become aware of what we do and how we do it, and my job will get a little easier.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And Josh is going to pull up that website. And Dan, how did you get involved with the organization?
Well, so I serendipitously got invited to what they call a community meeting in February. And in the community meeting, they were talking about how hard it is to find people to give money to. And I said to myself, hey, I'm the guy to tell people where to come and get the money. So I basically volunteered for the job, and took them a while to get around to me, but they hired me in June. I was employee number 3, and we've been beating the bushes now for the last 4 months or so.
Awesome. Now, I know you guys want to mention the other people that are on the board. So Dan, tell us who else is helping you out with this.
Well, so we have a very extensive board. Phil Carnes, KA9Q, is our president, and we have it's on the website. You can go and see the whole list. But these are really some well-known hams and well-known people in digital communications, and it's a great board.
Awesome. And I am so proud of my ham radio club that is very near and dear to me, and it's a huge club. They won Club of the Year in Dayton back in maybe 2017, maybe 2018. Anyhow, RM Ham, they applied for one of these grants and they got awarded $375,000. Everybody, yes, viewers, that's correct. I was just floored when they announced the news about this. And I'll tell you some of the things that they're going to be doing with it. So they're going to be extending their microwave amateur radio network from all the way from Cheyenne, Wyoming, basically down to Albuquerque, New Mexico. So we're going to have actual connectivity and basically internet via microwave all the way up and down the Front Range of the Rocky Mountains. So pretty amazing. And then they're also going to be working on I believe it's 2 communications trailers, and they're going to be building those out for all kinds of purposes, not only just public service, but also public safety. As everybody knows, we have lots of wildfires here, and when we're well equipped and we can monitor frequencies that nobody else has time to do, that's what we do for our served agencies. So RM-Ham is just floored by this, but this is something that any club can do. Is that correct? And I'm not sure who wants to answer this, but what does it take to get a grant?
So there's a few requirements. We, as a 501c3, only grant to other 501c3s if you're in the United States. Educational institutions that are nonprofit. We also can give grants to government organizations. So we've actually given grants to some of the Native American tribes to do some digital divide things. We're not exclusively amateur radio. There are some digital communications things we do. So if you fall into one of those categories, and for your international audience, we can give to similar organizations internationally. It takes a little more paperwork because we have to go through a process called equivalency, where there's an outside group of attorneys that look over your organizational docs and just determine whether you're equivalent to a U.S. 501c3 educational institution and so on. So it's global. The lion's share right now has gone to the United States, but we'd like to get a little more balance to that. So your international audience, please come and put in requests for grants. If you meet those categories, then the grant needs to be for something that advances amateur radio, innovation, technology, growth, those kinds of things, research, and then we also do scholarships and educational grants. If you're a middle school teacher and you want to teach a soldering class, we had a grant for that, and the kids were just super excited, and it was a very successful grant for them. We've got another group that's reaching out and going to license 500 new hams back on the East Coast, and they have ratios of how many young women will be part of that group. As an organization, we really want to see an increase in diversity in our hobby and in the industry. So we've reached out to, like, the Society of Women Engineers just received a grant to do some scholarships for women that want to study electrical engineering with a radio emphasis or digital communications. We're reaching out to a lot of underserved communities, BIPOC, LGBTQ plus, and so on. So there's a lot of opportunities out there for different types of grants.
Wow, that's really fantastic. And again, I want to reiterate the fact that you said, you know, this could be a small school club in a high school starting that only needs about $2,000 to buy an HF rig and an antenna. Or this could be something like a huge research project, maybe even developing the next CubeSat that we don't even know if it's going to work or not, but that's what you're there for, is to help fund it so somebody can find out if it will ever work. So, right.
And if I could just interject,
yes.
I want to point out that we like people to think big.
Yeah.
You know, think big, and because we have money, we have the money available.
So, and this is, you bring up the money. So you guys aren't actually, what I was told is you're not allowed to say how much money you earned because of the buyer said you can't tell how much money you ever made. What's the project or the lifespan of this? How many more years can you give out these kind of grants?
Well, our investments have done really well. Whenever you have an endowment, you put it into an investment pool. And We kind of see this as a perpetuity. We're managing the funds. Of course, the economy went crazy. We might not be able to do it, but we give away millions a year, and some years we make millions just in our investments. So we're here for the long run. So
that's fantastic. Now, my next question is, I'm only familiar with certain grants, maybe through an emergency operations center, things like that, where you have to spend money and show something that you've done for it in a certain amount of time. Do you guys have those same kind of requirements, or how does it work?
So a grant runs for a certain period. We like to write grants that run usually within a year. We can stretch that a little bit if you're doing a big project like the big one in Colorado. If you guys needed a couple more months, we would accept that. We tend not to fund things like other people's endowments. We tend to look for projects that fit in that parameter. Now, I'm working on one right now with a group that it'll take them 4 years to go through all their phases. And so they'll get a grant pretty much immediately if it's approved. And then they'll come back for another one next year, and another one the following year, and another one the following year. But we have visibility of what they're looking for in the future. There's no limit to the number of grants that you can submit. And as Dan said, we like you to think big. We also like you to think about what you really need. Hams have a habit, and it's a good habit, to try and do things with baling wire and duct tape.
No.
What?
The 50-year-old GE Master to build a repeater out of, and it fails 3 weeks after you put it up on the mountain that you can't get back to for a while. So we encourage people to, we want to be fiscally responsible with the funds that we have, but we don't want you to go cheap just because you think it improves your position. On the other hand, we don't want people going crazy. I got a request for a one-person club that wanted some thousands of dollars on the thought that you build it, they will come. And unfortunately, we had to tell that individual, you're not ready, you need to come back later. But in totality, we're typically granting about 80% of the applications we get in, which is really good for grant-giving organizations.
That's amazing.
Yeah, we do like progress reports. We're not heavy about that. It's 6 months out. It can be a Zoom call with our grants managers, Chelsea. It can be something written, send in. And then as the grant is wrapped up, we like an end of project report. Also, we're really easy to work with, and we're pretty transparent. So if you put in an application, so the process is like this. You go to our website, there's a menu item, apply for a grant, you go to that, there's a big blue button that says apply, you click that. It takes you to another website where you create an account and then you upload your narrative of what your project is and a budget and a timeline. As you can see, the big apply button there. That puts your grant into our funnel, or your grant request. Chelsea reviews that for the basic things we talked about earlier, that you're the right type of organization, going after the right kind of things. She passes it over to our grants committee, which meets every 2 weeks, and we try to clear them as quickly as possible. Sometimes we have questions that have got to go back, but typically we're able to vote a yay or a nay. That's passed to our board. They have final say. They usually take our recommendation. And then there's some paperwork that has to go back and forth. And once that's done, then we can get a check out to you.
Fantastic. It sounds like it's pretty smooth going, and that you're helpful the whole way. It's not like if you made one mistake on your writing your grant, you're out of here. So that's good to know. Dan, so basically what John was just saying is that if you're a de-expedition, don't come to us for money, because, we're here for expanding other things. Is that correct?
Well, so some de-expeditions might qualify if there's some service component. Some de-expeditions have taken equipment to these remote locations and left it there. That's something that might qualify. But yeah, if you're just going to some place to operate from, that may not qualify.
All right. Well, Josh, did you pick out any questions in the chat?
Yeah, I have a couple of them. So I've got this trip to the Bahamas I want to take. If I leave a Flex radio down there, what do you guys think? I do want to point something out, though. The website's really handy. So you've got a list of your grants. This is just this year, guys. Everything you're looking at is just this year, and there's separate pages for last year and the year before, and you can see these numbers. This is really impressive stuff. So, the first question is there an example, and slam dunk's probably too strong of a word, but is there an example of what you guys would look for and say, like, this has got a really good chance of making it past the board?
So Gate 1 and 2 is our grants manager and the grants committee. If you have a reasonable explanation of what you want to do, and it's amateur radio related, and you're not buying equipment to put in your own pockets kind of thing, those usually get pretty favorable. A lot of clubs are, 10, 20, 30, 40,000. Those are pretty easy for us. As mentioned by Amanda, we did 375,000 into Colorado and New Mexico. And of course, the MIT Radio Club got $1.5 million, but there's a reason for that. They were going to lose a great asset from the campus, and the administration at the campus said, well, if you can raise the money, we'll keep it. They were basically re-roofing the building, and they were going to throw away a radome and radar dish. The MIT Radio Club let us know what was going on. We actually turned that whole thing around in just a few weeks. And I think we kind of shocked some people at the university, because here's this little club of, a couple dozen, well, they've got some additional members, but, and they raised that kind of money in less than a couple months.
When I saw that amount, I was like, holy, you know what? I couldn't believe it. But reading about it, I was like, this is amazing. So it was really well spent money.
But, more conventional projects are certainly worthy, too. We've done a number of communications trailers, done several club stations, and several like STEM education projects. And those are smaller grants, but you were asking for examples, and I think those are good examples.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. Any more questions, Josh?
Yes, indeed. So I think you already answered it, but it's probably worth reiterating. Paul Hopman asks, are the grants for individuals, or can clubs apply for one?
So in theory, we could do one for individuals, but there are very few individuals that are nonprofit 501c3s, which is what I mentioned at the beginning. What we would encourage someone that might have a project that they'd like to get funded is find a 501c3 to be what's called a fiscal sponsor of your project. That means they handle the money and dole it out to you to do the project. And noting on that, we will accept up to 20% override on the grant to pay for those kind of, they're called indirect expenses. So, if it's a school or a club or something like that, they have to do some work, and they should potentially get some support for that. and we accept those along with the grant requests.
Excellent.
Interesting.
Another comment or question from Private Nombre. They ask, do they accept applications from local or county governments for equipment to train and equip first responders with amateur gear, like an EOC, for instance?
Good
If
question.
it's amateur radio specific, yes, we can absolutely give grants to local governments.
I'm looking at your list right now, and it looks like you actually gave a grant to California High School. And if that was in Whittier, California, that's my alma mater. So,
It was in San Ramon, unfortunately.
Oh, San Ramon, then Rio Hondo as well. That I think they're outside of Whittier, but yeah, I guess California's too big to have one California high school. That doesn't make much sense.
Right.
What would you? So the term technical innovation is mentioned in the website. What do you qualify that as? Is there? And there's a couple of bullets on the website, and I'll pull those up as we talk. But I'm curious how you kind of cover that.
Do you want
Well,
you want me to take?
I'll give you an example.
Mm-hmm.
We've awarded the M17 project a fair amount of money. And we think they're doing some really interesting work with digital communications in ham radio. And I think that's actually a great example of a technically innovative project we funded.
Okay, very good. Yeah, I've got the link up there as well. And I linked it in the chat for anybody to follow along. But yeah, those are the questions I have. And again, just go to the website and check it out. It's an amazing list of projects that you're all helping to support, which I think is just fantastic. And
It really is.
Yeah, what a great thing for amateur radio. Thank you.
You know, several people have said it's a game changer, and I really think it is. I mean, I wouldn't have joined the organization if I didn't think we'd make a real difference.
I do have one other question. Are you looking for anyone else to join your organization? If there's some bright minds out there that you could use, are you looking for them? Or are you guys good?
So for volunteers, at the end of every calendar year, we are looking for additional people to either join or replace people that are going to take a rest. On both our technical advisory committee, which is responsible for setting the standards and managing our amateur radio internet, Net 44, and that's actually going to expand a bit. We're actually working on a project to make it more accessible and easier to get onto. So if you have something that needs a good fixed IP address, it'll be easier to get on that. And then for the grants committee, again, we would like to see more international representation on those committees and more diverse persons on the committees. I run the grants committee. We've reached out to a few very significant women hams to come on, and they're just too booked. They're too popular. Yeah. But we'd love to see some on. So keep an eye on us. We do put out a request probably in December to try and get some additional new applicants to join those committees. As far as staffing goes, we're going to try and run lean and mean and keep staff relatively small.
Absolutely. One more thing. Can we find you on social media so we can keep up with the news from you guys?
Well, we do have a Twitter account. We're ARDC_73 on Twitter.
Okay.
Another thing I mentioned is we do put out a newsletter, and right now we're trying to work on the frequency, but we do it about every other month at this point. You can sign up for that right on our website. And there'll be, in the newsletter, there'll be mentions of community meetings, and we hold Zoom meetings every once in a while. And anybody can join in those Zoom meetings and talk to us and find out more about us. So there's lots of ways to do that. And I'll just say, feel free to contact me directly. I'm always willing to talk to anybody about anything, and John as well. John is willing to talk to people about their projects, and it's just that we're just happy to help.
Great. Josh, take it away.
Yeah, Steve Munich asked, so if my club is a 501c3 status, is purchasing Arduinos for like some kind of class, would that fall within the realm of possibility?
Sure.
Okay, sounds good. So there you go, Steve. You get right on that. And then I've got let's see, Steve. Okay, Don Robinson asks, are these out-and-out grants or loans?
They are grants. You get the money. In fact, just a couple other. If you're getting ready to write one, and if you've written some grants before, or if you haven't, we have some examples. Dan has volunteered to help with language if people need it. Chelsea, our grants manager, will as well. So one thing we realize is that, particularly in today's supply chain, the price of things can change. So what we encourage people to do is to take their list of things that they need to buy and round them up.
Good,
so
good
you got
idea.
a $1,739 radio you want to buy, put down $1,800.
And don't forget shipping costs. My goodness. I
Shipping
mean,
costs,
people leave that out like a
taxes.
lot.
Yep.
Yeah, shipping costs, taxes, fees that you might have to pay to the county to put something somewhere, those kinds of things. Include all of that in your grant request. And if you get to the end of the grant and there's $100 left over, buy pizza for the guys that work.
You guys are pretty cool.
Literally. If it's a significant amount, just make sure it goes back into the spirit of the project. And if it's really big, you can talk to us about maybe deferring some of the grant money back, but we prefer you to use it.
Very good. All right. Well, thanks, gentlemen, for being here. And what you guys are doing is awesome. And I think the whole ham radio community around the world is going to benefit from this.
Well,
Yep.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah.
Thank you for having us, and send in your grant requests.
There you go.
Well, thank you.
All right. I think we're going to have a word from Icom now.
Icom has the base station of your dreams with the IC 7851, IC 7610, IC 9700, and IC 7300 SDR transceivers. Icom's amateur radios are top of the line and are the first choice for contesters across the globe. Robust base stations like these cut through pileups, letting you work the bands and record those contacts. Stay connected remotely with the RSBA One app and keep your competitive contesting edge with Icom. Heard it, worked it, logged it. The IC 7851 gives you a new window into the RF world and is HF excellence unparalleled. With faster processors, high input gain, high display resolution, and a cleaner signal, it's truly the pinnacle of HF perfection. Dual receivers, digital IF filters, memory keyer, digital voice recorder, high-resolution Spectrum waterfall display, enhanced PC connectivity, and SD memory card slot. The Icom IC7610 is the SDR every ham wants. This high-performance SDR can pick out the faintest of signals even in the presence of stronger adjacent signals. The IC7610 is a direct sampling software-defined radio that will change the world's definition of an SDR transceiver. RF direct sampling system, 110 dB RMDR, independent dual receivers, and dual digicell. Create your own band opening with the IC 9700. This transceiver brings direct sampling to the UHF-VHF weak signal world. This all-mode transceiver is loaded with innovative features that are sure to keep you busy: faster processors, higher input gain, higher display resolution, and a cleaner signal. 4.3-inch color touchscreen display, real-time high-speed spectrum scope and waterfall display, smooth satellite operation with 99 satellite channels, dual watch operation, and full duplex operation in satellite mode. The Icom IC7300 changed the way entry-level HF is designed. This high-performance, innovative HF transceiver with a compact design will far exceed your expectations. RF direct sampling, 15 discrete bandpass filters, large 4.3-inch color touchscreen, real-time spectrum scope, and SD memory card slot. Visit icomamerica.com/amateur for more information on all the great Icom radios.
And a big hearty thank you to Icom for supporting Ham Nation. Of course, link in the description. You can get in on the Icom swag giveaway. It's every 2 weeks or when we post an episode. You go to icomamerica.com/Ham Nation, and the little link is right there. And they give away 3 winners or 3 swag prize winners every 2 weeks. And at the end of the month, they pick a grand prize. And this month is an ID 5100A. So make sure you get in on that giveaway. This round, we're giving away swag to Virginia Hill, Eugene Bell, AI7BV, and Rob Whaley, KG5OBU. So you are in for the final giveaway at the end of the month. So thanks again to Icom. We really do appreciate it. Now let's go to Dr. Don. Dr. Don, what's going on with you today?
Oh, that's a. There's just so much. There's just so much. I love Halloween. Halloween's my favorite time of the year. I just want to say that I think the whole grant idea is just absolutely amazing. I certainly hope that there are some clubs out there who maybe are 501c3s and they've been thinking about things they could do, but sitting around at their club meetings going, man, if we only had the money to do this. And I hope that a few of them are watching tonight. And so that you can have the money to do what you want to do to further the whole state of the art of amateur radio. That's the whole idea behind our Young Ham of the Year award is to honor an individual, in this case a young ham, who is doing something for their community or their country with ham radio, or something that furthers the state of the art. And this whole grant idea just dovetails exactly with what Bill Pasternak envisioned with Young Ham of the Year. And so I congratulate you guys. I really do. This is such a great asset for amateur radio. Speaking of Amateur Radio Newsline, we have that report, and we also have Dr. Tamitha Skov with some information about what's going on at the Sun. So let's roll that beautiful bean footage.
From Amateur Radio Newsline Report number 2295, this is Ham Nation headlines for Wednesday, October 27th, 2021. For 36 hours between the 26th and 28th of October, international teams of radio operators will push the limits of their abilities and their radio equipment to compete in an event that military organizers in Canada are calling the world's most prestigious military-led high-frequency radio competition.
The exercise, known as Noble Skywave, is a friendly contest among military radio operators and their affiliates to contact other teams, making use of voice and data modes. Teams can comprise radio operators active in various nations' military forces, or they can be in the reserves or National Guard. Operators also participate from the US Military Auxiliary Radio System and the Canadian Forces Affiliated Radio System. This year, more than 150 teams in 10 nations are expected to be on the air, hoping to be crowned the best of the best. Although the majority of participants are in the US and Canada, past exercises have drawn participation from teams here in Australia, the UK, New Zealand and Peru. The Communications and Electronics branch of the Canadian Armed Forces have been at the helm of this training exercise since 2013. Lieutenant Taylor Curran of the Canadian Armed Forces 21st Electronic Warfare Regiment told Amateur Radio Newsline in an email statement his regiment is the lead mounting unit for the event. For Amateur Radio Newsline, I'm Graham Kemp, VK4BB.
With the help of some key funding, a digital safety net is ready to expand in the Pacific Northwest.
An emergency communications network in Oregon is getting the resources to expand its reach with the help of an $88,000 grant from Amateur Radio Digital Communications. Oregon Ham WAN, for Wide Area Network, will use the funds to set up a dozen distribution sites between Salem and Portland, Oregon, enabling a connection to the Puget Sound data ring. That data ring provides communications between Seattle and Vancouver in Washington state. The project leader of the Oregon Digital Network, Herb Weiner, calls the connection a, quote, game changer for emergency communications in the Portland area, end quote. The establishment of 12 backbone distribution sites will allow hams to set up network nodes more quickly in the event of a disaster, such as an earthquake. Each network node would operate with such equipment as a 12-volt battery and a low-cost Wi-Fi router. The multi-megabit data network provides regional connectivity via amateur radio on the microwave bands, providing high-speed digital communications. For Amateur Radio Newsline, I'm Andy Morrison, K9AWM.
What are you doing the first week or so in December? You're invited to be a part of the Antarctic Eclipse Festival. But don't worry, you won't need your heavy coat.
The Antarctic in December? It's a promising time and a promising location for citizen scientists volunteering to help yet another project of HAM-Sci. No, it doesn't involve travel, just an HF radio and some commitment to the cause. With a total solar eclipse happening over Antarctica on December 4th, HAM-Sci is hoping that hams and shortwave listeners around the world will help measure Doppler shift at that time by using their HF receivers at home. The shifts are the result of space weather having an impact on the ionosphere and on propagation paths. The worldwide project, which is being called the Antarctic Eclipse Festival, will be looking for measurements gathered between the 1st and 10th of December. Instructions on how to sign up for the festival, how to collect the data, and how to submit it can be found on the HAM-Sci website at hamsci.org. For Amateur Radio Newsline, I'm Jerry Goodrich, KF5KRN.
And that's all from the Amateur Radio Newsline, your independent source for amateur radio news for 4 decades and counting at arnewsline.org. With Graham Kemp, VK4BB, Andy Morrison, K9AWM, Jerry Goodrich, KF5KRN, Karen Eve Murray, KD2GUT at the news desk in New York, and our news team across the globe. I'm Don Wellbanks, AE5DW. 7-3. We'll see you next time here on Ham Nation. Now, here's the solar update from Dr. Tamitha Skov, WX6SWW.
Everything's quiet right now, but there's some new regions rotating into view, and it's about to get busy. Those stories and more in the news this week. Space weather this week is definitely sticking to the quiet side. As we take a look at our Earth-facing disk, you can see we have that big coronal hole that was sending us some fast solar wind over the past couple days. That is now rotating off of the sun's west limb, and we haven't seen a boost to storm levels, just really active conditions, kind of sporadically, and that's about all we're going to get from this region. And when we take a look at the west limb, there's really not a lot going on. But as we move to the east limb of the sun, take a look at all the bright regions that are beginning to rotate into Earth view. We have region 2886 and region 2887, and 2887 especially has been firing off some solar storms. And as we look past that, around the 20th and even into the 21st, we're seeing regions both in the south and in the north. These are likely going to be sunspots and given designations as well. And we have seen some solar storms being fired off for there too. So expect the activity to be boosting here, as well as that solar flux. We're already seeing it rise into the high 80s. It'll easily get into the 90s and possibly triple digits here within the week as we watch these regions. So amateur radio operators and emergency responders, rejoice, because that propagation on Earth's day side should increase. And aurora photographers, keep your fingers crossed. There may be some aurora in your future. Switching to our M-flare threat meter, as you can see, the X-ray flux over the past week has been pretty low, and therefore by proxy the solar flux has been low. We've been sitting in about the mid-70s over the past week or so, but if you notice that right around the 20th, you start seeing that X-ray flux rise a little bit. That was from region 2886 and 2887 as it began to rotate into Earth view, and sure enough, that X-ray flux and the solar flux is going to continue to ramp up over the next few days. Possibly into this next week, we could actually be hitting the triple digits. Now, we also may be seeing some flare activity here soon. We're not seeing a lot of it yet, but as we continue to ramp up almost to the seafloor in X-ray flux level, boy, that tells you we've got some busy active regions that could be giving us quite a show. Switching to our solar storm conditions, if we go all the way back to the 12th, you can see we actually got hit by a pretty decent solar storm. This one made it up to the G2 level and gave us some gorgeous aurora clear down to places like Omaha, Nebraska, Iowa, and even Oregon. And it was due to that solar storm that was launched back on the 8th and into the 9th. Sadly, it didn't last all that long because it wasn't as great of a direct hit as we expected, and so it was over all too quickly. But meanwhile, as things began to die down, we got hit by a couple other mini solar storms, and then we got hit by some fast solar wind, and that kind of kept us at unsettled to active conditions sporadically clear on and off until about the 20th when things began to finally settle down. Since then, we've had a little bit of a bump up due to some fast solar wind from that one coronal hole I talked about that's now disappearing off of the sun's west limb. And as that begins to wane, now we're back into quiet conditions, and it looks like here is where we're going to stay for a little while until those new active regions start sending us something more. So what else does our sun have in store for us this week? Well, this is Stereo A. It's our partially far-sighted monitor. You can see here's Earth, here's the sun, and here's Stereo A staring at the sun just a little bit from the side. And when we take a look at Stereo's view, you can see in the south, region 2886 and region 2887, well into Stereo's view now. But also look past that on the east limb. You can see 1, 2 regions in the south, and look in the north. 1, maybe even 2 regions in the north. And if you pay attention, that's 4 different regions that are all actively gurgling and burgling. Do you see that? They're even firing off a few solar storms here and there. So things are going to get very busy here over the next few days just in Stereo's view. And that means in about 3 or 4 days, we're going to start seeing these regions rotate into Earth view as well. They're going to boost that solar flux. They're likely going to be still firing solar storms, and we may have some flare players pretty soon. So everybody hold on to your hats. Switching to our solar storm conditions and aurora possibilities over the coming week, everything this week is going to pretty much stay in the green, and that's because we don't have much going on. There's no solar storms in the forecast. So at high latitudes, NOAA's expecting unsettled conditions, but we have up to about a 20% chance of a minor storm. But take this with a grain of salt, because likely it's going to stay between unsettled conditions to possibly even quiet conditions at high latitudes. Now, at mid-latitudes, the story's pretty much the same. We're looking at unsettled conditions, possibly even just normal conditions, with only about a 10% chance of active conditions over the next 3 days and possibly over this week until we see those new active regions that are rotating into Earth view kind of rotate into the Earth strike zone and maybe launch a solar storm or 2. So then we could actually get some fun for your aurora photographers. But meanwhile, it looks like this week you're going to need to kind of sit it out and just allow those amateur radio operators to enjoy some quiet time on the bands, especially as that solar flux begins to boost. So the space weather this week is definitely on the quiet side. We don't have any solar storms in the forecast, and we probably won't easily over the next few days or possibly throughout this entire week. So aurora photographers, well, you're just going to have to relax and enjoy and stretch your legs for a little bit. Even you aurora photographers at high latitudes, you're likely not going to get much more than just quiet green arcs. So relax, but definitely know that we've got those new regions rotating into Earth view here over the next few days, and things will change, I can guarantee it. Now, amateur radio operators and emergency responders, well, you know what? We've got that solar flux that's been kind of quiet lately, but it's now boosting into the high 80s and into the 90s, and it could be by the end of the week kissing the hundreds, right? The triple digits, which is always such a coveted thing. So enjoy improving radio propagation on Earth's day side, even though at the latter part of this week, you're probably going to start noticing a bit more noise on the bands, and that's due to those new players rotating into Earth view. But enjoy meanwhile. Now, GPS users, well, right now it's pretty quiet, and we don't have any storms in the forecast for you right now, so GPS reception both on Earth's day side and on Earth's night side looks pretty good, but I can't guarantee that's going to stay that way next week. I'm Tamitha Skov, the Space Weather Woman. Thank you for watching.
Excellent report as usual from Dr. T. Make sure you follow her on Twitter at Tamitha Skov, and also spaceweatherwoman.com is her website. And of course, the best way to keep up with her is on Twitter, but she also has a YouTube channel, and that's where you can see her reports. We have to edit those for time here for Ham Nation, so be sure you check out her YouTube channel, Tamitha Skov, and you'll see the full unedited version of her reports. They usually go sometimes 10, 12, 13 minutes. So obviously we don't have the time to devote to that here, but always good information. So we certainly appreciate what she does for us. We also appreciate what Joe Eisenberg, K0NEB, does, because, you know, he writes that kit building forum and teaches us how to solder and teaches us don't hold the hot end. That's real. That's the first thing he teaches. Don't hold the hot end. And
Definitely.
Oh, sorry, I was distracted for a moment. What do you have for us tonight, Joe?
Well, Don, I was at PacificCon a few days ago and got to see some of our fellow people. So what I'm going to do is that first I'm going to share the screen right now, And we're going to look at some pictures. There we go. Let's see if that works. There we go. And all right. Hopefully that looks all right. What we're looking at is Gordos Table. Now, Gordon West does a presentation called Gordos Breakfast, and people buy their breakfast and bring it into the room and sit down and eat and watch Gordo put on a few demonstrations of some of the things that make radio work. So we're going to look here, and there's the three musketeers here. Three of us from Ham Nation were at Pacificon. We have Randy and myself and Gordo, and it was a great time. And there's Gordo teaching a young ham who I think was like 10 years old about how RF goes and AC and DC and LEDs and batteries and what happens when things get shorted out. Very, very interesting. Very good demonstration. I didn't fry the pickle this time, but did a lot of new stuff, and was a really fun time. One of the features of Pacificon is what I like to call the flashlight flea market. About 5:30 in the morning, they set things up. And what it is the parking lot lights aren't all on, and sunrise there is not until almost 7. And so other than a few passing headlights on the freeway and 2 or 3 parking lot lights, the lights all provided there are battery-powered LEDs that people bring with them. And it's a lot of fun. Definitely bring a pocket flashlight, because that's what you're going to need to enjoy this flea market. And yes, by flashlight, I could take a few pictures. I have a newer camera now, and it worked out real well with just holding a flashlight up and taking pictures instead of using a flash. And lots of neat things. And like most flea markets, there were some things pretty expensive and some things not so expensive. And so it was worthwhile to be there. You can see kind of an overview of what it looked like. Pitch dark. A couple of street lights in the parking lot, the rest all flashlights, and a lot of fun. Of course, the sun does come out, and later you'll see a few things. That was kind of an expensive little meter there. They wanted $200 for that old Simpson 260. And then who else but Jerry and Amy show up to the flea market on Sunday? That's their favorite part of this, and they don't live too far from there. As you know, they're, excuse me, both hams and video game designers in virtual reality. And so it was great to see them in person for the first time. I've seen them on other shows. Finally, we're going to look here at a kit that I just got in the mail a while ago. This comes from India. It is a single sideband and CW transceiver kit. This is for 20 meters. They call it the Easy Bit X. And I don't know if it's that easy, because I'm going to show you here. There's a lot of parts in this kit, and there are at least 9 toroids, including 3 or 4 bi and trifilar coils that you got to wind, and those little Toco CAN transformers. I think there's at least 3 of them. You get to wind those tiny things yourself. So it's going to be a challenge, but I decided to take it on as kind of a kit building challenge and keep my skills up. And we'll be writing about that soon for CQ. But this is all the parts. It was so well packed being shipped from India that it took me probably at least a half an hour or more to get it unpacked and sorted out and ready for assembly. If you remember, by the way, that's the case it comes in, and the speaker is wrapped up on top. This is the kit that I showed last time, and this was the Pacificon receiver, and somebody won the beauty contest for the nicest looking one because he designed a 3D printed case. And of course, I was pretty jealous, and he actually made the case online available to all of the builders who have 3D printers. So, of course, the first thing I did when I got home on the plane was I downloaded the file. And so I printed it. And this is what the case looks like with the radio. And it still don't have the knobs. I have some knobs to fit on order. Should be here any day.
That looks great. That looks great, Joe.
But yeah, that's a 3D printed case. I printed it myself at home. All you have to do, you don't have to have the same kind of 3D printer the person has. If he gives you like an STL file, you can run it on your own slicer program that sets it up for your own 3D printer, and you can print it yourself, and it looks wonderful. Let's take a look here. At the back, the kind of rectangular opening is for a rocker switch to turn on and off the power. Well, I kind of switched mine, and I instead of using the switchable CW filter position, I put an on-off switch in the front. So you can do lots of things with this. Really a lot of fun, and makes the 3D printer worthwhile for amateur radio. You make 3 pieces. You make a front, a back, and the shell. And it holds itself in place using the nuts that you screw on to hold the connectors to another case. He absolutely did a genius job on this case. It did take a while to print it, about 11 hours, but all worthwhile. So I'm going to share my screen now, and you're going to see my face because it's Halloween. Now you see I don't have a costume, but I have a haunted D104. Here we go.
Johnny and Helen made their way through the haunted house. The floor creaked and groaned with every step. What was that ghost slowly closing in around them? In a flash, they saw gray shapes float through the air, passing through the walls and solid objects as if they weren't there. Oh.
Yeah, it's kind of fun. This thing's got a few different things to do.
We interrupt this program to bring you an urgent announcement. Frankenstein's monster is on the loose again. Citizens are urged to stay indoors and away from wells, alleys, and enclosed spaces where the lumbering minutes might strike. The local authorities further urge citizens to refrain from forming mobs, wielding torches and pitchforks, or marching on Castle Frankenstein. We now return to your regular programming, which is already in progress.
That sounded like Gordo a little bit. There was a little bit of Gordo in that announcer voice.
Yeah, was he recorded for this?
And the haunted radio.
Strange things come out on Halloween, like me. Yes, come closer. Come right up.
So we have a haunted radio and a haunted D104. So happy Halloween from here in Lincoln, Nebraska.
Oh, thank you so much, Joe. I just wanted to quickly ask, if you didn't mention it, if I wasn't paying attention, how much does that little kit cost for you to build, 3D printing and everything?
Well, the kit, I think this was a kit that was just supplied for Pacificon, and I think the kit was $15 or $20, and the case didn't cost more than what the filament is, which is the plastic stuff I'll show you. It comes on a spool. This is some blue filament, and I pay about $18, $19 for a 2 kilograms spool of this, which is quite a bit. And so I would guess that I probably have a few cents in the case. And I'm still making these key kits as well that are made from the 3D as well. And 3D printing really has a future in amateur radios. There's so many things you can make. You can make antenna insulators and other things. And like I got it for originally was kit cases. And I've had a lot of fun making call signs. I think Don has one, and I make these. So 3D printers are very useful for amateur radio and be a good thing for a club to have, especially for projects like this. But Amanda, that's our report here.
All right, so this brings us back to Dan. So 3D printing, how can we include that in a grant where we know a club needs a 3D printer to help make cases for people's projects, things like that? It's something you guys would probably support, wouldn't it?
Well, quite possibly. So just have them submit a grant application. As long as they're the right kind of organization and they're using it for educational purposes, sounds like it would be a go to me.
There you go. So I'm trying to think of this as like a club should buy a 3D printer to help all of their members out. I think it would be a wise idea. So, and Joe, I love your call signs, by the way. That's pretty cool that you could just print that out.
You bet. I'll have to make you a pair.
Yeah. Make it. You better make one for Jeff, because otherwise it gets really sad.
That's why I said I'll make a pair.
So at times I get perks, like I got a cute mug. I don't get a lot of perks, you guys, but I got a cute mug, and Jeff's like, "Where's mine?" Sorry, honey. Yeah, sorry, you guys. My main light, my power supply started melting during the show, and I started smelling this electrical burn. And I was like, "Oh, that's not good." And it's the only one. It takes like a night. It's the weirdest power supply. So evidently, I'm gonna have to go to Amazon and upgrade.
Uh-oh. Skype just went bye-bye. Hold on.
Josh, this question's for you.
Oh, we lost everybody for a second. Are you there?
I'm there.
Yep.
Okay, so hold on. I gotta do some stuff here. I don't know what just happened. Like Skype kicked me out of the call. That's like the second time that's happened. It happened last week too.
How you get kicked out as the host? Like that's getting fired on your day off.
I know. Yeah. I mean, again, as soon as Zoom wants to upgrade to support NDI, we will stop using Skype. Once that happens, I can make this all work much easier. So, what was the question?
Okay, this is our question. Josh, are you actually dressed up for Halloween?
Yeah, there was somebody that figured it out. Anthony Becerra got it. I'm dressed as Coach Beard, which is, I don't know of a person that's been on some form of television that doesn't look more like me. So also, it's a wonderful show. It's a fantastic show. It's so it just makes you feel real good. And I don't like sports. I'm not a sports follower of any kind. And that show, it's about soccer, and I just love football would be the right thing to say. So that's who I'm dressed as, Coach Beard.
KD5P, this power supply is a ridiculous power supply. I think it's like this 19.2 volts huge power supply for this light. This is why it's got to go. I'd love to have one that I can just like USB plug in. It takes a huge amount of power to supply this LED light for whatever reason. I'll take pictures and put online. Let's see other questions. I don't really think I have any.
I've got a couple of items to mention.
Well, take it away.
All right,
Coach.
So, thank you very much. Well, there it is. I printed up some 3D printed things too for my T-beams, my LoRa Mesh-tastic T-beams right there. So those are ABS plastic. Made those a couple of days ago. And I do have a live stream all about 3D printing for amateur radio and the different projects I've used, also going into some of the details of which printers you might want to look at. Printers really are still in the game of, if you don't spend a lot, expect that you're going to be putting your hours into it. You're going to spend more time tinkering with a 3D printer if you go cheap on a 3D printer. Keep that in mind. That's very much...
Yeah, mine does not have auto leveling and things like that. But I put in some upgrades when I was doing the project last year, where I made clear face shields for our first responders.
I was going to mention that.
I pretty well learned every possible piece that you could replace in this thing. And I replaced belts, hot plates, the hot end, the Bowden tubes, the extruder drives. just about every part in this printer. And every time I did it, a lot of it I did the third-party upgrade parts. And most of the stuff I replaced with those have not needed to be replaced. New bearings, new shaft, new everything. And but you're right. This was a $200 printer. It's a Creality Ender 3 Pro. There are much better printers out there that have enclosed cabinets to keep them quiet, and they have auto leveling and a lot more control and can run a lot faster than this one and not have the stringiness and stuff that you get with a printer like this. But I've replaced brass nozzles with stainless steel and replaced the hot end and the thermal sensors and things to make sure that this is at its peak performance, actually. But it does take time because it's not as fast as some of the others. But I get a good quality print, and that's what counts.
Indeed.
And
yeah, go ahead.
I wanted to just say I had remembered Joe doing that over a year ago, and so many hams did just stepped in and we're going to help make face shields for all of our first responders out there. So I'd like to say thank you again. And we don't forget that you did that all time and money spent, that you did it all just out of the kindness of your heart. So you guys are awesome. A lot of hams did that all over the United States and maybe even the world.
Very much so.
Yeah, it was really awesome.
Discord
Okay.
After Chat. I'll be doing Discord After Chat. Actually, we've got a couple of friends down in Costa Rica that is on 20 meters right now. So if you're interested in making a call with, actually it's Ham Radio 2.0, Matt AE4MQ, and Chris from Buddy Pole is down in Costa Rica right now. So if you want to make contacts with them, hop on 20 meters. And if you join me on the Discord After Chat, we'll go try and chase them down and see where they're at.
Oh, so you don't know the actual frequency. All right,
You talk, and then I'll see if I can find where they're at.
No, let's keep talking HF. So I'd like to mention, don't forget, everybody, this weekend is a major DX contest. And if Val was here, she would have waxed poetic about this. This is where you can get DXCC in a weekend, 24 hours. You can get 100 countries worked. Everybody's going to be on. This is probably the first contest where everybody's coming back into these shacks, and the groups or the clubs are coming back together. So even K3LR is going to have his whole gang together, rocking and rolling on that DX contest. So listen up. If prop is going to be the way it's supposed to be this weekend, everyone's going to have a fun time on the band. So I think even you're going to make some contacts on 10 and 15 like crazy. So yeah, have fun with it. And other than that, let's talk some more HF. We're going to have the HF nets tonight. Actually, Kev is still stuck at work, so there's no 40-meter net, but it's our debut of Back to 80s. So look for 3830 or thereabouts for Steve W7UDI. Thank you so much, Steve, for keeping on with this net. And this is about the time when the 80s starts to open in the evening, so hopefully y'all get to hear him and he hears you, and you guys check in. With that, let's go on to our other nets we have. We have D-Star on 14 Charlie and DMR on 31012. So be sure to join those gentlemen as well. Thank them so much. They do this week in and week out, and we appreciate them running these nets. So happy Halloween. I have to send it around the room for one more thing here. Sorry to take any more time, but this is a very, very important question. Either your favorite Halloween candy or milk chocolate or dark chocolate. Don, you first.
Ooh, it depends. I'm a chocolate fiend, first off, and I like both milk and dark equally. With red wine, I prefer dark chocolate. I think that pairs real well. As far as my favorite Halloween candy, pretty much anything fun size, but you can't go wrong with Reese's Peanut Butter Cups.
One of my favorites.
See, I knew that.
It's one of my favorites. I also will, very second closest Kit Kats. Dan, what about you?
Well, I'll be a little bit of a contrarian. I like the root beer barrels.
Those are good.
Oh, interesting.
Oh,
well, at least you didn't say candy corn.
I got Dan and John mixed up. Sorry about that.
Like
that was the Skype
corn.
issue. Sorry about that.
John, what about you? What's your favorite candy?
So I'm on a sugar-restricted diet, but I'm also a peanut butter cup fan, and I'm one of those weirdos that actually like candy corn.
I do too.
And where chocolate's concerned, if it's high quality, I prefer dark.
Dark. Okay. In chat room, feel free to shout out there. What's your favorites, milk or dark? Come
they're
on,
doing
milk.
it out without you asking.
Okay. Candy corn rocks. KM6QXE. What is wrong with you people?
Next, you're going to say circus peanuts are good.
Oh, no. We had that discussion last night. No, that was for the peanut butter cups, Skittles.
Yeah, those are good.
Skittles, I like those as a teenager. A little perkiness. Okay, Joe, favorite candy? Milk or dark?
M&Ms or Sweet Tarts.
Sweet Tarts.
Either one of those two. And there's a chocolate factory about 15-20 minutes from me, and I'll have to get you some of their milk and dark chocolate.
Yes.
It's no preservatives. It's wonderful, and it's made just down the highway from here.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, nice. And I like the sound of chocolate-covered coffee beans. And actually, I had one this morning because I stopped at a coffee shop that I don't usually stop at. And they give you one of those on top of your coffee cup. And I also don't do sugar because I'm on a keto diet, but I did take that coffee bean and eat it. Josh, you.
Okay, so I've got 3 going from the lowest to the best. Third, Snickers. It's okay. 2, 100 grand. The 100 grand bars.
Those are good.
Love those. Number 1, nobody's going to agree with me, Almond Joy. I love Almond Joy.
No, I'm there.
Love it.
I'm with you there.
Yeah.
Yep. Almond Joy's totally.
And I'll eat any kind of chocolate. Although I do often eat dark chocolate just so that I don't eat the milk chocolate because it's much less sugar and a little bit better for you.
So this was.
I want to know this though. You mentioned Almond Joy, of course. You remember the old commercial. Sometimes you feel like a nut, sometimes you don't.
Yep.
How do you feel about Mounds?
Well, so good. That's the opposite of my dark chocolate thing. So Mounds is dark chocolate and Almond Joy is milk chocolate. I like the almond. I'll give it to the almond, but I don't care. I'll eat either one.
And Scott, K0WAV, you're just you're psychotic for loving those atomic fireballs. Really? Oh, I remember those. Those are horrible. I had something. Oh, this was so funny. Hosting the net that I did last night, and I asked about their favorite candies. That was a question of the night. Your favorite Halloween candy? One guy actually told me that he taxes his children. So he's like, so my kids go out and they go trick or treating, and I actually tax them about 20%. And I take about 20% of their candy.
Oh, that's evil.
It's just teaching the kids a future, how it works. You just got to teach them young how it goes.
I was dying. It was so funny, and I believe that he actually does that. But I bet that he's actually the cool dad and takes all the candy that they don't actually like. Those Raisinets, Smarties.
You know what I like that I think is almost universally hated, but I like it. I don't even know what it's called, but it's these little it's almost like a peanut butter. It's kind of like a little waxed paper. It's almost like not toffee, but a peanut butter. Yeah, kind of. But it's almost universally hated in any poll about, oh God, I can't stand those. That it's like, this is old school candy. I like that stuff. I like the old school candy. So I don't know what it's called, but it's peanut butter something.
All right.
It's almost like a saltwater taffy. It's like I was thinking toffee, but it's like a saltwater taffy, but it's that peanut butter stuff, and it's usually wrapped in either like an orange or a black wax paper, and that's how it comes.
Oh, I know. And it has the pumpkin face.
Yes.
With the little black dots.
When you said orange or black paper, I knew exactly what you're talking.
Right.
It does come. It looks like taffy. So I grew up in the whole time of when everybody was scared they were putting drugs in all the candy and razor blades, and you dump your bag out, and your parents will look at it and they'd see a black wrapped, nondescript, non-labeled, non-sealed candy, and they were like, "Get that out of here! That's gonna kill you. That's out of here." Yeah,
I remember when we used to take the candy to the hospital and they would X-ray it. Remember those days?
I do. Yeah. My parents didn't care that much about me.
Oh, everybody's saying they're called Mary Janes. Mary Janes is the name of those black and orange candies.
And I think my dad did me a solid, and I loved them. You get the little saran wrapped Rice Krispie treats from Grandma down the neighborhood, right? And, and your parents are like, yeah, no. But my dad was like, I'll cover that for you, kiddo. Don't worry about it. So, and obviously, candy apples are no longer an okay item to hand out.
Nothing is okay anymore. Nothing is allowed. No fun. Everybody get rid of the fun.
Yep.
I have to say that costumes have evolved though, because we used to have those horrible like plastic masks with the elastic that always broke.
Yep. And a bag.
Oh, the hard plastic. Yeah, they were horrible. You couldn't see out of them.
Scratched your eyeballs, and the slits were really small, and you couldn't open your eyes. And that's how you were trying to be like Superwoman or Superman. And I'm glad costumes have moved from that. In fact, I really like those inflatable ones. Okay, enough. All right, we're done. Josh, you go to Discord. The rest of us get on the nets. And happy Halloween, everybody. And we'll see you in 2 weeks. And we'll have some hopefully great guests on. So.
Yeah. And remember, go join that Icom giveaway. The link is active
That's right.
now. Go get on that, and maybe you'll win in 2 weeks, and you'll be in for the final prize, a 5100, which is a fantastic radio. So,
yes,
all right.
I love mine.
73, everybody. Allow me to play you out.
73.
Good night, all.
73.
And thank you so much, ARDC, you guys, for joining us. We really appreciate it.
Yes, thank you. Wonderful. That was fantastic.
Pleasure.